Remain on the line. The broadcast is now starting. All attendees are in listen-only mode.
Hello everyone, a very good evening. Bhaskar this side. I hope you guys are doing good. So can you just quickly confirm if you can hear me and you can see my screen as well? Okay, thank you guys for the confirmation. Okay, let's wait for a couple of minutes so that I can also join and we're going to start. Okay guys, so let's start today's session. So first, we're going to revise what you learned yesterday. So yesterday, first we have completed the previous module, the topics which were left, like all the topics related to the AWS billing. We have discussed what is AWS, like how billing dashboard looks, and then what are the services like AWS budget, cost explorer, reporting, all those we have seen. After that, we have seen what kind of a technical support AWS provides when you are purchasing any subscription plan. So we have checked all those kind of like topics, and then we have started with a new module, that is AWS global infrastructure, in which currently we have discussed AWS regions and AWS availability zones, and now we will discuss what is AWS point of presence. Okay, so let me take few questions. Okay, and then we're going to start. Okay, so if I want to see our detailed report of the different kind of AWS services which we are using, I want a detailed cost report. So which particular service I'm going to check, I'm going to use for getting the details of my costing, AWS account costing. Ravin, yeah, that is also fine. But if I want it in the form of reports, then the detailed reports I need. What about others? I've only received three answers. What kind of reports are these, guys? No, I think you guys are not revising. No options, man. Whatever I ask, that is direct. I need the answer because you have learned that yesterday only. So the correct answer is cost and usage reports. We have seen yesterday. Okay. Okay, so you know, I think no question will come in technical support, that is not required. Okay, how many regions we have in AWS currently? Yesterday I told you how many total number of regions are there currently. Very good, Bajna. Yeah. Mani, I'm asking how many regions? Somebody asking me 275. Oh, surprising answers. Yeah, but most of you are correct. There are 22 regions till now. 22 regions. Okay, how many availability zones are there? Availability zones are inside region. Yeah. Hmm. Yes, the correct answer is 69 availability zones. Okay. So, can a single availability zone have multiple data centers? Yes or no? Can a single availability zone have multiple data centers? Yes, it can have. If suppose the data centers are located around 40 to 50 kilometers, then that particular area, if there are two or three data centers, will be considered under the same availability zone. Okay. And if the data centers are apart 500 to 600 kilometers apart, then that single data center will be the part of that particular availability zone. Money depends upon governance policy. It when you are choosing a region, in which region you want to work, it depends upon what kind of a policies are there of that particular region, whether those policies suits you. If those policies suits you, then you can deploy your application in that particular AWS region. Okay, guys, so I think I've covered all the questions. So let's start with today's topic. So first one is points of presence. Okay, so points of presence consist of two components. One is your, edge locations, and the second is regional edge cache. So we're going to discuss what's the edge location and regional edge cache. So AWS provides a global network of 187 point of presence location. So these point of presence, that is your edge locations and regional edge caches, are way more as compared to your availability zone, because availability zones are bigger in size, and these point of presence or edge locations are smaller in size. That's why there are around 187 point of presences. So inside this 187 point of presences, there are 176 edge locations and 11 regional edge caches. Now let me tell you what is edge location. So, like inside the edge location, you are going to cache the content. So yesterday I've told you what do you mean by caching. Caching means storing any data for some time. Temporary storing of any data. So suppose your browser is there, okay? Browser also cache the data for some time. Maybe, for few hours. Suppose you have searched something few minutes ago and now you're trying to access that part. So that means, it has saved your query. So that is the meaning of caching. So it is a temporary storage. So caching means to store your data temporary, on a temporary basis. Yes, Ganjana, correct. Okay. So now what happens whenever you are using edge locations. There is one application known as CloudFront. With the help of that only, you can use your edge locations and regional edge caches inside your AWS infrastructure. So suppose if you want to use edge location, if suppose you have configured edge locations inside your AWS infrastructure while using AWS CloudFront service, then what is going to happen? Suppose initially, money will is trying to access my application. Like I have an e-commerce application, is trying to check out some like couple of t-shirts. Okay, so first of all, his request will go to first of let's consider that the edge location is near to like Mumbai region, or suppose near to Bangalore region, and are inside the Mumbai region. So currently money is in Bangalore and he's trying to access my application, okay, which is where you want to check out few t-shirts. So first of all, his request will travel to nearest edge location in Bangalore. If the data is available in that particular edge location, then edge location is going to provide the data to money. If suppose the data is not available in edge location, then that request will travel to your Mumbai, the origin server, the origin servers which is handling your, which is hosting your application. Then from there, the data will be transferred to edge location. And now the data is there in edge location. From here, the data will be transferred to money. Now, suppose after half an hour or suppose after 10 minutes, Ganjana wants to check out the same article. So she's also trying to, or he's trying to check out the article, from the from the same place, from the same area, Bangalore only. Then that request will go to nearest edge location. Now the data is there in that particular edge location. So now the reply will come from edge location itself. Now that request won't go to the origin server. So now there are multiple advantages of edge location. It lowers down the latency. Latency means the amount of time when the user is trying to request something from the application, the amount of time application is responding to the user. So that time will be decreased, because now initially what was happening, suppose we were not using the edge location, then from Bangalore the request will travel to Mumbai each time. That is a longer path. But when I'm using this functionality of edge locations, then the request is traveling to, first of all, to the Bangalore edge location. So if it found the data inside the edge location, it's going to deliver the data from there itself. Now the path is shorter. That means the latency will reduce to a great extent, or I would say no latency. So it will help you to increase the performance of your application. So if I will tell you, suppose you have created one application. So what is a good customer response? If suppose I'm trying to access something on the application, I'm trying to find something, and I'm getting a prompt reply from the application, prompt response from the application, instant response, that means the application performance is really good. If suppose I'm trying to find something and that is keeping on buffering, I'm getting a response in a particular delayed by a minute or some seconds, then definitely I'm going to use that application for some time, then I'm going to uninstall that, because I don't get the good application performance. So to keep up the good application performance, the great application performance, we use edge location, so that it is going to reduce the latency to a great extent, or I would say a zero latency will be there for your application. That was the first advantage. The second advantage of using edge location is, is that your origin server won't be overloaded. Your origin server will also have the CPU, the memory. So if suppose less number of same kind of a request is hitting your origin server, then definitely that server will have it won't be overloaded. It won't get the similar kind of a request. So your resources inside the origin server will be optimized. They will be only responding to the new request, because all the recurring or the same request will be handled by edge location. Okay, that is the thing. Latency, just now I told you, Smita, latency is the amount of time it is taking from your application to get a response to a user. So for example, suppose Ashmita, you are trying to access any application. You are trying to send a request. Suppose you are trying to access Amazon.com. Okay, and you are looking for some new I would say pair of shoes. So you have typed your query in the search and you have click on search. So now the amount of time you will get the response, you will get the data reflected on your application is the latency part. So if you are getting a data instantly, that means there is no latency. If suppose you have requested for some data and it is taking some time, that means you are getting some delay in the response. That is the amount of latency. Okay, I think it is clear. Is it clear, Ashmita? Now, Ashmita, can you hear me? Okay, I'm not getting a response. Okay, I think it should be, it would be clear. Okay, yeah, thank you. So, okay, let me give you another example now of edge location. Suppose, me and Ashmita are working in the same company in Bangalore, and our application is hosted on US server. It is a US market application. So suppose, I want to, I want to get one file from US, and we have also configured edge location. So first of all, my request will go to Bangalore edge location. If that file is not available inside the Bangalore edge location, then that request will go to US, inside the US region where my application is hosted on the server. From there, the data will be copied to edge location on a temporary basis, because it holds the data for a temporary period of time, and then it will be delivered to me. Now suppose after 10 minutes, since Ashmita is working in the same company, she is also requesting the same file. Okay, now that file will be delivered directly from the edge location, because that file was cached last time when I requested for that. That is now cached inside the Bangalore edge location, and from there Ashwita is going to get the file without any delay. Maybe I would be getting some delay when I was requested for that file, but Ashwita is going to get that file without any delay. That is the advantage of using edge locations. I've given you two advantages and two and three examples. Okay, guys. Now, okay, so I now will tell you what is regional edge caches. So regional edge caches are, like there are 11 in numbers, guys. So these are also similar to edge locations, but they are a bit, they store your unfrequently used data. So I'll just give an example. What is frequently and unfrequently used data? So suppose any data, any let's take the same example of that same file, which I was trying to access and Ashmita was trying to access, like that. So suppose if that same file was was accessed by many people very frequently, suppose like in a particular day, around 10 to 15 people have accessed the same file. That means I am frequently accessing that file. So that file will be copied from origin server to your edge locations. Now suppose after 2 days, nobody has accessed that file. Nobody has accessed that file, and now after 2 days, Hital has joined our team. He's a new developer who has joined our team, and now he is setting a system. So he also requires the same configuration file. So now that file is not available in the edge location. That file will be moved from edge location to regional edge cache, because that file has now become the unfrequently accessed file, because that file was not accessed by anyone in the last 2 days. So that file will be moved to regional edge caches. And now when Hital is going to request that file, so first of all the request will go to edge location, file is not there, then it is going to check out the regional edge caches. So regional edge cache is going to store that file for longer period of time. So it is going to Hital is going to get the file from regional edge caches. So regional edge caches are located between your edge location and your origin server. So any unfrequent request, any file which was not accessed for some time, which is moved to regional edge cache, and now you're trying to access the same file, then you are going to get a response from regional edge caches. So both these pillars, your of point of presence, that is edge location and regional edge caches, makes a lot of difference in application performance. Your origin server will be free. It is not going to be busy for the same kind of a request. You will get all the details in, like all the files without any latency. So this is the difference. If I will ask you the difference tomorrow, what is the difference between edge location and regional edge cache? Edge location caches your frequently accessed data. Regional edge caches your unfrequently accessed data. Unfrequently accessed data means the data which is not getting accessed for for a few period of time, maybe for 2 days, 3 days. That is going to move from edge location to regional edge cache. So it depends on the configuration. Okay, what kind of a configuration? So whenever we use this CloudFront, like a CloudFront service, with the help of that, you can use the advantage of edge location and regional edge cache. So when you configure this particular service, that time you have to configure the details about these edge location and regional edge cache. Then that configuration, whatever you're going to configure on this CloudFront, that data is going to be sent to all the edge locations inside the globe where your applications are there. So near to that, all the edge locations going to have that same kind of a configuration. So it depends on us what kind of a configuration, for how much time we want a particular object to be sitting inside edge location, that also we can define. And now what is the meaning of that? There is one concept known as time to live, TTL. So TTL is a life of a particular object inside a temporary memory. Since this is a temporary memory, cache is a temporary storage. So inside that, if suppose we have defined that any object which is cached inside edge location will be there for 2 hours. So any object who is trying to access that same kind of information, the same kind of object will get it from your edge location. Now after 2 hours, that object will be deleted automatically. Now suppose I'm trying to access the same object, now the same information, then the request will go to edge location. Now it won't find the object inside that particular edge location, so the request will move to my the origin server, and from that I'm going to get the data. The data will be copied to the edge location. From that, it's going to copy to my system. That is the flow. Okay. So time to live, time to live is a concept, where you define how much will be the life of an object inside your temporary storage. So suppose if I have defined the life of any particular object will be 5 hours. Then that object will be there inside a particular cached memory or temporary storage for around 5 hours. After 5 hours, it is going to be automatically deleted. That is the meaning of time to live. I hope it is clear. Okay, so used with CloudFront, I've told you, CloudFront is a global content delivery network. Okay, that delivers the content to the users without any latency. So Amazon CloudFront is a global content delivery network which is used to deliver the content globally to the global users without any latency. So that is an advantage, because when you're configuring CloudFront, then you can also take the advantage of edge locations and regional edge caches. So regional edge caches used for content with infrequently accessed data. Same thing I told you. Edge locations are used to store your frequently accessed data, and regional edge caches are used to store your infrequently accessed data. So this was about your point of presence. So somebody was asking me, I think yesterday or day before yesterday, what is edge location, all those stuff. So I think now it is clear. Okay. So guys, let's move ahead. Okay, now let's check out what are the AWS infrastructure features. So what are the features of using AWS infrastructure? So if you will check out the diagram, so inside a particular region, like this is one of the region. Let's say it is a Mumbai region. Okay, so Mumbai region is having three availability zones. Okay, so it is having as location store data. Yeah, Janna. As location stores the data temporary. That's what we were talking about. It is a temporary storage. It is used to cache the data. Okay. So look at this, guys. This example. So this particular region contains, three what to say, like availability zones. So these availability zones are isolated to each other, and these are having the distinct physical data centers are there inside the availability zones. They have a multiple backup generators. All availability zones are connected to the AWS private network. They have an uninterrupted power supply, so that they have a multiple, the power supply, multiple, backups of the power supply. And each availability zone data centers has a cooling equipment installed. So there are multiple cooling equipments are installed, because a lot of heat has been, exhausted from these servers. So to maintain the temperature of a particular data center, we use cooling equipment. So this is the architecture of your, what is the data center. Now let's check out the features of AWS infra, which is used, which you will create inside these regions, inside these availability zones, or like your data will be residing on this data center. First one is elasticity and scalability. Elastic infrastructure, dynamic adaptation of capacity. Okay, and scalable infrastructure that to accommodate growth. So like all the features are maximum features of your AWS infra are elastic in nature. So what do you mean by elasticity? Just take an example of Elastic. In Elastic, you can expand and you can compress. So a single server, if suppose today you are using a server of 4 VPCU and 2 GB of memory. Tomorrow you think that you want to change the configuration. So that server is it is elastic in nature. You can just move to another instance type where it is having higher configuration. Higher configuration means suppose there is a requirement of 10 GB of memory and 12 GB of 12 VPCUs. So you can update to new like you can update to the upper I would say like higher instance type. That means it is elastic in nature. You can increase the configuration within the machine, and same way you can also decrease the configuration. Suppose you are using a storage of 100 GB you have attached to an EC2 machine. Now you are only able to consume 20 GB. That 80 GB is going to be waste. So what you are going to do? You are going to decrease the storage, because it is elastic in nature. We can change that, because we can stack also any service, and we can compress also. That is the meaning of elasticity. Okay, now let's check out the another component is scalability, scalable infrastructure. So scalability, like I've already told you, there is a feature of automatic scaling where you can scale horizontally, and you can also scale like horizontally by adding number of machines. So suppose you are running any application where you are expecting more number of customers hitting your application, then automatically your infra will be growing. You will be adding the all the servers automatically as a part of automatic scaling, so that particular so that all the customer traffic will be managed by your application servers. Same way, once there is a reduction in your that customer traffic, then automatically the infra will be scaled down. There is a meaning of scalability. Now let's check out what is fault tolerance. Continuous operating properly in the presence of a failure, built-in redundancy of components. So fault tolerance means how they can manage if there is any fault occurs. So for example, let's take an example of the data center. So since they have multiple level of backups, suppose there's any fault in a like in your power supply, and your main power supply is cut, then automatically all the power load will be shifted to the first level of backup. So first level of backup is going to provide all the power to your servers. Now suppose the first level of backup also fails, then also it will be shifted to the second level of backup. So this is the meaning of fault tolerant. There was a fault, there was a cut in the power supply, but then too nothing had happened inside the data center. Still the servers are up, and those servers contains your application. Your applications are running on the top of those hardware. That means there is uninterrupted, any issues, like it is 100% fault tolerance, I would say. So there is no disturbance. Power supply was cut, but it has not impacted your application. That is the meaning of fault tolerance. In the presence of failure, how your operations are getting continued, because there was a failure. Power cut is a failure, but then too your operations are continued. Your operations are not halted. That is the meaning of fault tolerant. Now, high availability. High available of operational performance, minimize downtime, no human intervention. So I've told you a study also. If you make your application highly available, so that if something is highly available means you are launching your application in multiple availability zones inside a region. So if something goes wrong in a single availability zone, it is not going to impact your application. Your application will be still up and running inside another availability zone, because two availability zones are around 500 to 600 kilometers apart. If something wrong goes here, it won't impact that long. Okay. So that is the meaning of highly availability. So your application will be highly available to the customer. There is a failure in a availability zone. Suppose there is a some hurricane came, okay, in that particular area where the availability zone A was there and your application was hosted on that. Now due to that, there was a lot of destruction happened and your availability zone is unable to it is unable to operate. So now since you have created a highly available infra, it has not impacted your application, because we have other servers which are sitting inside another availability zone where also you have installed your application, and your application is running from there. Your data is stored in multiple availability zone. So if there is any data which was a part of this availability zone, there which was stored in this availability zone A, where the destruction has happened, it is not you're not going to lose the data, because the copies of the data will be available in different availability zone. So this is making your application highly available, and there is zero downtime. Downtime means when your application goes down. So there are multiple reasons of downtime. Sometimes we only make our application to go for downtime. Suppose I want to do some manual patching. Suppose I've told you about the patching to keep the software up to date. Suppose I want to do some patching. So what I will do, I will just do this patching in non-business hours. Suppose my application is running in India. I know the business hours are from morning, from morning 10 a.m. to night 8 p.m. That was the business hour where I will get more of the customers. So I will plan a patching in the night around 12 a.m. so that there will be very, very minimum customers impacted. Okay. So that is the downtime. When I'm bringing my application down to upgrade the application resources, that means that is a downtime when I'm bringing my application down. But here, when you're using the highly available infrastructure, there is a minimized downtime or zero downtime. So when there is no downtime, that means your application is highly available. It is running 24/7 and no human intervention. Everything will be done automatically. You don't have to. There won't be any human intervention, because if suppose we are doing any human intervention, it may take some time to fix the issue. But suppose if I have done some automations, then definitely the machines will work faster as humans. Though we have created these machines, but these work really faster as compared to us. So it is going to so there will be no human intervention, and your application will be highly available. So I hope now now it is fine. You can understand all these terms: elasticity, scalability, fault tolerance, highly availability. I'll be using these terms in going forward in multiple times. So I think you can connect with them easily now. Okay, so these are the features of AWS infrastructure, guys. Okay, okay, you want me to repeat highly availability? Highly availability means, suppose if there is any, any, I would say like any, destruction, like in any availability zone where your application was hosted. But since you have created an application highly available, that means you have copied your, like you are running your application multiple availability zone. So if one availability zone is also down, then to your application will survive. Then to your application is up and running. That means if in those destructive scenarios also you are able to run your application, that means your application is highly available. Okay, so like in those tough time also you are able to serve your customer, because there is no zero, like there is zero downtime, or there is very minimum downtime. There is a meaning of highly available. You are making your application highly available by running your application inside multiple availability zones. I hope it is clear, Ashwini. Okay, cool. So let's check out the key takeaways of this section. Then we're going to go ahead. So the AWS Global Infra consists of regions and availability zone. So it consists of regions, availability zone, and your edge locations. Okay. So now, like your choices of a region is typically based on compliance requirement to reduce latency. So definitely, whenever you are choosing a region, you have to make sure that all the services which you're going to use are present in that particular region. You are following all the compliance requirement. You check out whether there will be a very less latency. So all those things you're going to, and one more factor, the cost factor. You have to make sure whatever region you're choosing, you are checking out the pricing of each and every AWS service. Each availability zone is physically separated from other availability zone, so it is isolated from each other and has redundant power, networking, and connectivity. Edge locations and region edge locations improve performance. They improve application performance by caching the content closer to the user. So when they're caching the content closer to the user, that means whenever user is requesting to for any particular kind of information, that request will move to your nearest edge location, so that user is going to get a response in very less time. Okay. Okay, guys, let's move to another section of this particular course, that is AWS services and service overview. Okay, so somebody is asking me how many copies in availability zone. Sir, it depends on you. Actually, based on different kind of services. So there are few services, Chinna, where you can store up to 6 copies of your data. There are few services where you can store a single copy in each availability zone. And there are few, like a few things you only have to make sure you have to build a infra. Suppose whenever you are running any instances, you're creating the servers, so you can create the servers in multiple availability zones. That won't be automatically done. You have to create the infra. That's what you have to also make sure that how you're creating the infra. So some things are there which are provided by AWS only, but some things we only like some things are there, some features are there of a particular infra that we have to control. Okay, so to make our application highly available, don't worry, we're going to create a highly available infra. So once we will create that, you're going to get more details about that. Okay, what that is means, sir? What that is mean? Application hosted, application running. Application hosted and application running means same. Hosted means you have an application in the form of like in the form of programming languages that need some some platform to run. So when I'm moving this particular application on this particular platform, that means your server. That is the meaning of application hosted. I'm hosting my application to this particular server. That is the meaning of application hosted. I am deploying my application to this particular server. Okay. Real time example means anything. Currently you are working on Zoom. We are currently in a we are currently on this GoTo webinar. So this application is hosted on some server. That is a real time example just now. Like you are using Facebook. Facebook is hosted on some kind of a server. Any extra cost? Definitely. If you want to make your if you want to make a highly available environment, you have to pay some extra from your pocket also, because you are creating multiple server, deploying in multiple regions. It will cost not much worry, not much vary. but a little extra cost you have to pay. Okay. From that server, how it is available to me? Because you are using that application. You know, some application will be stored somewhere, money. Okay, when you're requesting the application, that request will go to the origin server. Suppose we are currently using our GoToWebinar. So that GoToWebinar is the application. You got the GoToWebinar URL, but that application is running on some server. So internally, whenever we are, trying to access the application, the request is going to the origin server. From here only, we are getting the response in our browser. Okay. Yeah. So that is the basic form of client and server. I think you Mani, have you not attended the first or two classes? I've already told you how the client and server machines. What is client machine? What is server machine? The client is your machine. So you from your machine you're trying to access this GoToMeeting. So your is a client machine. What is server machine? The server is the place where your this GoTo application is hosted. That is your server. So I've already explained those part. Okay. So if you have not attended, I think now it would be clear. But please try to concentrate. Okay. If you have attended, so please, because I've already explained from a very basic everything. Okay. So guys, let's start with this AWS services and service category overview. So first of all, let me also show you, okay, what are the AWS regions, how you can see the AWS region. So once you will log into your AWS management console, so on this, top right, you will see these are the different kind of regions available. Okay. So these are the different kind of regions. So if you want to move to another region, so suppose currently we are in North California. If you want to move to Mumbai, just select this region. Then you will be the part of a Mumbai region and you can create any resources inside this particular region. That's why going global is very easy here. While sitting in Bangalore, I can create servers inside US also. I don't have to physically go there, create the data center. That everything is eliminated with the help of cloud computing. Okay. Okay, guys. So let's move. Yeah. Okay. So now let's check out the AWS services and service category. So I've already showed you the service category. So we are going to. Okay, I'm audible, not sir. I'm not audible. What about other guys? Can you hear me? Am I audible? Mani, can you please just try to reconnect because others can hear me without any issue? Just try to reconnect. That's it. You'll be able to hear. Okay. So guys, look at this. Okay. Look at the diagram. Let's understand from the like from the bottom. So first one is your infrastructure. That is your AWS infrastructure, which contains regions, availability zone, and edge location. Just now we have learned that region, availability zone, edge location, region, edge caches, combined together creates this AWS global infrastructure. On the top of that, there are few foundational services. Foundational services are those which will be the building block of each and every application. For example, to host some application, you need some compute power. That is your machine, your server. That's why it is a foundation service. For communicating to your customers, you need a network setup for your application. So that's why it is also the part of foundation service. Now to store your operating system, to store your customer data, you need some storage. So that is also comes under the foundation service. So these services will be common for anything. If you're creating anything inside the inside IT technology, like IT world, the compute, the networking, storage will be there, guys. These are the foundation service. Now on the top of that, you can create the platform services. Okay, for example, database is there. Though database is also an integral part. Okay, but there are few static websites where you don't need the database also. Okay, so suppose database is there. Okay, so on the top, like using this storage, on the top of that you can build the database. So all your data will be stored inside the storage. Storage will be attached to your database server as well. So whatever data you're going to store inside the database, that will be ultimately stored inside the storage part. Okay. Then you have analytics. Suppose you are creating some data warehousing application. For that also you need compute, network, storage will be there. For any application service like queuing, orchestration, streaming service, transporting, anything for email service, you need these basic foundation services will be the pillar of these platform services. Then you have deployment and management services like containers, DevOps, resources, monitoring, your mobile services like identity, sync, mobile. So all these are platform services. So with the help of all these platform and foundation services, you create your applications. But you now understood these are why these are known as foundation services. This is the main thing because without these you cannot create anything. These will be the pillar. These will be your pillar. Okay, the pillar on the top of that you can build something. You can use other services, but these will be the pillar of your consider as a foundation services. Your compute, your networking, and storage part. Okay, guys. So let's now understand what are the AWS service categories are there and what categories we are going to learn in this particular course, which is a part of your AWS Solution Architect Associate examination. So we have multiple, categories of service. I've already showed you here also. If you will log into your AWS account, there also you can see under the services. These are all service categories. And if I'm going to check out any particular kind of a service category, I can click on. Suppose I'm clicking on Internet of Things, and these are the AWS services which are the part of Internet of Things. The same way, if I click on database, these are the database services, guys. Okay. So we have analytics, cost management, IoT, networking, robotics, machine learning, application integration, AR/VR, database, governance, management and governance, satellite, migration, storage, mobile, game tech. So a lot of things are there. So if you want to build anything, suppose blockchain is also there. If you want to build anything, AWS platform is enough. That's why they are leading the market, guys, because they have categorized the service in such a way. If you bring any kind of a problem to them, they have a solution through any kind of a service inside a service catalog. Okay, so now let's check out like what we are going to focus among these service catalog. We are going to focus on cost management. Okay, your networking and content delivery, the databases, your management and governance, your security, identity and compliance, your storage part, and your compute. So these all are the services which we are going to learn as the like these are all service categories, and inside this we are going to learn multiple services which are the part of our solution architect associate examination, guys. Okay, so this will be the focus. The highlighted will be the focus of our of our learning. Okay. So now under the storage services, so once we are going to start the storage services, we are going to learn these kind of storage like S3 storage. Okay, that is your simple storage service, your elastic block storage, your file system, and your storage service relation. So currently, if you think if these terms are not getting connected with you, don't worry. Once we will reach out to this particular section, storage section, we are going to discuss all these services in detail with the hands on. Okay. So now under the compute service category, what we are going to learn in this course, the EC2 part, your Amazon EC2, your EC2 auto scaling, your container based services like your ECS, your ECS container registry, and you have your EKS and Fargate. These all are the services which are the part of container based applications. Then we have our platform as a service known as Elastic Beanstalk, and we have a serverless component known as AWS Lambda. The focus will be on these compute services. Under database services category, what we are going to learn? We are going to learn about the relational database services. Inside this, there will be multiple, database engines like Oracle, MySQL, Amazon Aurora. We are going to check out those also under relational database service. Then we are going to move to something like Amazon DynamoDB, which is a modern database. We are going to check that, which is very fast. And then we are going to see what is Amazon Aurora, which is Amazon own database. It is their in-house product. They have only created this Amazon Aurora. So we are going to check out that, and finally the data warehouse tool, that is Amazon Redshift, we are going to learn. And under the networking component, networking content delivery, we are going to check out what is Amazon VPC, Virtual Private Cloud, your elastic load balancing, your CloudFront, the CloudFront service, which uses the edge location advantages, your AWS Transit Gateway, which is one of the networking component, your Amazon Route 53, which is your domain name service. What is domain name? www.google.com is one of the domain name, like that. www.ethnus.com is a domain name. So how to get those domain names, how to manage those domain names, we are going to learn through Route 53. And then AWS Direct Connect, it is also one of the networking component we are going to check. And then finally AWS Virtual Private Network, VPN. So all these things will be the part of your networking and content delivery category. Then we are going to move to security and identity and compliance service category. Inside this, we are going to start with IAM. That will be the next module. The identity and access management. And inside this, we are going to learn all the concepts of IAM, which is very, very important. And then we're going to check out AWS organization. We have already seen what is AWS organization. We know it is used to manage multiple accounts in a particular organization. Then what is Amazon Cognito? Cognito is one of the service. AWS Artifact, AWS Key Management Service, and AWS Shield. This will be the part of your security identity and compliance service category. So under AWS cost management, we have already checked out the three services: the cost and usage reporting, the budget, and cost explorer. This already we have checked out. Under management and governance services, there will be few services named as, first of all, AWS management console. So once you will start using, you will be pretty much familiar with this management console. Okay. And then AWS config service, we are going to check out what is Amazon Cloud Watch, which is a monitoring service. Yeah, and your AWS auto scaling. So EC2 auto scaling and AWS auto scaling are, I would say, like a bit different. AWS auto scaling means like it is a service, and EC2 auto scaling is a child of AWS auto scaling. It is one of the branch. Suppose AWS auto scaling is a tree, then EC2 auto scaling is one of the branch. Okay, this is the difference. You have to just understand until this point of time. Once we are going to discuss this, you will have more clarity on each topic. Then what is AWS command line interface, CLI, AWS trusted advisor, AWS well architecture tool, and finally AWS cloud trail. We are going to discuss these services. Okay, this brings us to the end of this particular module. And like same thing, you can also see out all the services over here. Suppose if I will move to the networking part, let's check out the networking services, networking content delivery. So we are going to check out the services which we have. We are going to learn all the services which were mentioned in that particular course. Okay. Okay. So let me wrap up this module. So what we've learned in this module. So in this module, first of all, we have seen what is the difference between your AWS region, availability zone, and edge location. Now, I think it would be clear what is a region, what is a availability zone, what is a point of presence inside that, what is edge location, what is regional edge caches, and then identify AWS services and service category. What are the different AWS services are there, and all those services are the part of some service categories. So which category we are going to focus on this particular course, and inside each category which services we are going to learn. Okay. So let me ask you one simple question, then we are going to move to another module. So this is a simple question. Just answer me. So which component of AWS global infrastructure does Amazon CloudFront uses to ensure low latency? First one, AWS region. Second is edge location. Third is availability zone. And D is virtual private cloud. Okay, take your time. Okay, so I've got few answer. What about others? We are around 50 in the strength. So please try to participate, guys, as much as possible. Okay, so maximum of you are correct. The correct answer is B, edge location. So it is telling you, every question is having some kind of a hint. Okay, that will get you the right answer. So now let's use the elimination process. So always use the elimination process. So it is telling component of AWS global infra does this is used by Amazon CloudFront to ensure low latency. So region does CloudFront uses the this region? No. AWS edge location? Yes, because when you're configuring CloudFront, then you have the advantage to configure to create the configuration for edge location as well. AWS availability zone, does availability zone is helping to reduce the latency? No. And then Amazon virtual private cloud. No, virtual private cloud is a different service to create a network which has high latency. The thing is that anything can have a high latency, and like any region and availability zone, and everything can have a low latency. It depends how you are creating your application. If suppose Vishnu, your application, like you have created your application server in Mumbai, and you are not using availability, like using your region and availability zone. You're not using edge location, and your application is a global application. Now somebody who is staying in like New Zealand, from New Zealand, he's trying to access your application, then definitely, if suppose he is trying to download some file, or trying to upload some file on your application. Suppose you are having an Instagram kind of application, he's trying to upload a video, then he will feel some latency because there is so much distance. So we make sure that when you are creating any application for a global users, you make sure you're deploying your services in multiple regions, or you're also using your edge location advantage. So it is not like which has high latency. That is not a correct question, I would say. Anything can have that. It depends on you how you create your infra. Okay, Vishnu. Okay, guys. So I think you guys have done good. Maximum of you got the correct answer, and I hope you also you have also understood why the other options are incorrect. Some documentation part I've told you from starting from the first day. Documentations are very important. Any issues in the future also, if you're encountered with any kind of a issue, just check out the documentation of AWS. Okay, so let's now move to module number 4. So module number 4 will be all about AWS cloud security. So let's see what you're going to learn inside this module. The topics which you're going to cover here will be, first of all, AWS shared responsibility model. What is AWS shared responsibility model? And then AWS identity and access management. So this particular service is very important. This will be the part of, you will get multiple questions using based on this service also. So this we are going to check in detail. Then how to secure a new AWS account. Suppose you guys, I think some of you would have created your AWS accounts. Okay, so how to secure your new account? Some guidance will be there. Some best guidance from AWS, and how to secure the account in general. How to secure AWS accounts, and then how to secure data on AWS. So when you are like running any application, or whenever you are hosting any application on AWS platform, so definitely some data will be generated. That will be your application data, the customer data. So how to make sure that data will be secure. We're going to check out that. And finally, working to ensure compliances. So we're going to check out what are the different kind of compliances which AWS has already taken care, which will help you to take a decision to move from your on-premises to your AWS platform. Some activities will be here. So first one will be the AWS shared responsibility model activity. So once I will explain you the shared responsibility model, we're going to do that activity. One recorded demo will be there of IAM. So how to create the IAM functionality, and then now from these modules, the labs will be started. So I'm going to introduce you to the first lab, that is introduction to AWS IAM. So once we will reach, I will show you how to access your lab, your Canvas labs. Okay. Then finally, there will be one knowledge check, a simple question. So you have to answer that question, and that will be just a knowledge check. So I believe that each one of you, has this Canvas access. Yes or no? If not, please guys, and just check out with Sunil. I think he has shared the ID. So please ask him to provide you the access, because now we are going to start with the left part. From this module, the lab will be starting in each module. Okay. So we got, okay, so good. I think I got all the yes. That means you all have now got the access. So once you will complete this module, what you're going to learn? You will be able to recognize the shared responsibility model. What is shared responsibility model? And then you'll be able to identify the responsibilities of customer and AWS. So what is the responsibility of customer? Like we are the customer for AWS, because we are using AWS to create the infra. So what's our responsibility and what is AWS responsibility? We're going to check out that. Recognize IAM users, group and roles. What is IAM user, group and role? After that, describe different type of security credentials in IAM. Okay, what are different kind of security credentials are there when you're using IAM? Identify the steps to secure a new AWS account. Whenever you're creating a new AWS account, how you can secure it. Explore IAM users and groups, and then recognize how to secure AWS data, which is very important also, and finally recognize AWS compliance program. What are the compliance programs are there which are provided by AWS? Okay, so let's okay, so we'll do one thing, guys. We'll just take a 5 minute break before starting a new topic so that there will be uninterrupted learning. So let's take 5 minutes break now, and I'll see you after 5 minutes, and we're going to start with the section one of module number 4. I'll see you in 5 minutes. Thank you. Hello everyone. So let's continue the session. I hope you guys are back. Okay, so let's start. So now the section one is about AWS shared responsibility model. So let's check out what it is. So look at this diagram. It is a diagram of AWS shared responsibility model. So if you will see the orange part, orange part is for AWS. So all these things I'm going to explain you. So these are the responsibility of AWS, and the customer part is the this part. This is our part, our responsibility. So what exactly AWS shared responsibility model tells? You know, when it comes to the security of your application, to to create a best security or a high security for application, it is the responsibility of both customer and AWS. That's how the responsibilities are shared between AWS and customer to provide the security to your application. That all comes under your AWS shared responsibility model. Now let's start with AWS. What are AWS responsibility? Okay, for the security of the cloud. So for AWS, first of all, let's from the bottom. The region availability zone edge location. So all these physical entities, where your hardware is located, on the top of that your applications are running, maybe inside a particular region or a availability zone or edge location. If to provide the security to these physical locations, it is responsibility of AWS. So if suppose tomorrow, if there is some security breach happens from their availability zone, then you're going to question AWS. They're going to provide the answer. So to secure your applications hardware, it is responsibility of AWS. The hardware AWS global infrastructure. So inside this region availability zone and edge location, all the hardware is there, because there will be some hardware on the top of that only the applications are deployed. So all the hardware is the responsibility of AWS. If suppose tomorrow somebody hacks a particular availability zone, then we are going to question AWS only. How you have provided physical security to a particular availability zone to save a particular hardware, because multiple clients, maybe millions of business is running on the top of those hardwares. That's why these AWS hardwares should be they should be placed in a very secure way. So like there are few people who can only go ahead and check out the data centers. Nobody can get access for the data centers. Only the people who are working in that technology, the hardware technology, or the higher management of any company, they will only get the access to check out the data center. Otherwise, employees, the people who are working different projects or on the like other levels, they won't be able to check out what is data centers. That's why nobody is asked to go inside the data centers without the permission, like that. And then on top of that, all this compute, storage, database, networking. So these are the different services which they have created in the form of softwares, and those services we are using as a virtual services. Suppose we have a compute service, we have a storage services. What are these? These are the virtual services. So there will be some hardware components like a compute server. There will be some hardware storage, the hardware, like database server, all the networking components like routers, load balancers, subnets, etc., etc. Everything will be there inside the data center. So to protect them, to secure them, it is the responsibility of AWS. Now on the top of the hardware, they have created one virtualization layer. So on the top of the virtualization layer, we are we are able to check out the different softwares. What are the softwares? The services. Data software only. EC2 service is one of the software. Your SC service is one of the software. So to check out that everything, each services are available securely to each region, to each availability. It is the responsibility of AWS to get you all the services in the form of software in a secure way. Suppose you are currently working in Mumbai region. What all services you are seeing as a part of Mumbai region, all are provided by AWS. So if any service, so all the security of those services which you are going to use to create the AWS infrastructure will be the responsibility of AWS. If suppose EC2 service is got any issues, then you will be questioning AWS because they are managing that service. We are just using that service. They have created that service. They are managing that service. We are just using that service to create the application infrastructure. So till this layer, anything happens as a part of a security, it is the entire responsibility of AWS. Now let's check out what is our responsibility as a customer, because we are using AWS services. So to start from here, the client side data encryption and data integrity authentication. So first I'll tell you what is do you mean by encryption. So I'll just take an example. Suppose I want to send a message to Sonia. Okay, so me and Sonia are communicating, and I want to send a message to Sonia, and I have encrypted that message. What the encryption means? I've added some garbage value. Suppose I'm sending hello to Sonia, and I don't want that anybody should be able to hack that message in between. For that, I'm going to encrypt that message. Okay, so that message is now encrypted means some garbage value. Suppose in between H and E, a lot of garbage value will be added. In between E and L, a lot of garbage value. So nobody can easily hack that message. So okay, so that is the meaning of encryption. So that message will be encrypted, and Sonia, I'm sending it to Sonia. So along to that, okay, yeah, you can say generating hash code. Hash code, yeah, correct, Rishikesh. So then to decrypt the message, Sonia would be having a decryption key. So once that message will reach to Sonia, since Sonia has having that key to decrypt the message, so once a message get decrypted, then Sonia can see the message form, that is hello, the message, the exact message. Apart from that, no, like if suppose in between some hacker is trying to hack that message, and if he or she is not having that particular key also, then too he or she won't be able to check out the content of that particular message. So that's why we are encrypting. We are securing the data. We are securing the encryption at client side. So client side means all the client means like for this like when any computer or any mobile which is trying to access any application, so that mobile is or computer is known as client side machine. So the client side data encryption is the responsibility of customer. So you have to make sure that whenever like somebody is trying to access the application, they are trying to access it in a very secure way through the encryption. The second one is server side encryption. So server side means where your application is hosted on the servers. So let's see, you have a web server, you have a database server. So to encrypt those servers is your responsibility, so that all the communication which will be happening between the client and server will be a encrypted communication, so that in between if anyone try to hack that message, they won't be able to do anything because they don't have that decryption key. So encrypting the servers at client side and encrypting the server at server side is the responsibility of customers. Apart from that, networking, traffic protection, encryption, integration, identity. So suppose I have created one in network. Inside that I have launched my application, and now customers are trying to access my application from internet. From outer world, they'll try to access my application which is inside a particular network. So since I'm defining that network for my application, I am creating the firewalls, I'm creating the security firewalls, I am doing all the configuration. So it is my responsibility. If some network breach happens, suppose somebody is trying to do some kind of attack on my application, okay, then it is my responsibility to tackle that attack. It is my responsibility that I am going to check out where exactly I have done some mistake so that this network security got breached. So it is my responsibility. Now operating system, network and file configuration. Suppose OS, suppose you are using your EC2 machines to deploy your application. So to patch your OS, it is your responsibility. To create application network, it is your responsibility. I was telling about the firewall configuration. To create the security firewalls, so that which ports are going to be open for the communication, for the network communication. Inside these firewalls, we are going to open ports. So there are few ports. Okay, so once we will open some port, then only the traffic will be flown through that particular port. So for example, suppose you guys go to this this like soda vendor. Soda vendor have multiple soda options. Like suppose 10 soda options are there: lime, pineapple, mango, etc. So suppose I went to the soda center and I'm asking for mango soda. So he's going to open the tap of mango soda. So consider that tap as a port. So once he will open the tap, then only the network will flow. That means the soda will be flowing through the glass. That is a network. So we have to open the different kind of a network post inside the firewall configuration. Since we are doing this configuration from our end, that's why if something goes wrong as a part of security of your application, it is our responsibility. We're not going to ask AWS. They will say, you have done the configuration, it is your responsibility. Then the platform, application, identity, and access management. All the applications which you are hosting on the AWS. So since you are hosting on AWS, that is your responsibility. The platform which you are using, it is your responsibility. Maybe you are hosting on, Tomcat, a platform, or you are using Elastic Beanstalk for, for as a platform as a service. So it is your responsibility. Then identity and access management comes. So suppose, what kind of a users can access your application. When I'm telling about not end users, suppose with the help of identity and access management, we are there's a team of 500 people who are supporting some product, and they are divided into different work. Like some are network guys, some are server administrators, some are developers, testers, etc., etc. So how each user can access your AWS account? What are the different kind of a permission you are putting to each user? What are the different kind of a policies you are applying to different kind of a user? That all you have to decide inside identity and access management. So suppose tomorrow you have given some admin access. Admin access means the higher privilege where he or she can access all the services if you are having an admin role. So for example, if suppose you guys are in college, maximum of you are in college. Yeah, active. Uh, Active Directory is a different concept, money. Active Directory is a different thing. Yeah, you can see an admin can manage the Active Directory. Yeah, in that case, it is correct. So suppose you all are, a maximum of you are in college. So in your college labs, you guys log in as your user ID. You don't have a admin access. So if you try to download some software, then you won't be able to do because it will give you a permission denied error because you don't have admin access. But an admin who is having admin access can do any kind of a configuration inside your system because he has a full right. So in the same way, suppose I am giving a admin access to a to a particular developer, and if he is trying to suppose if he has deleted few web servers which were the servers on which our application was running. So since we have given that kind of access, so if that person is doing this kind of activity, then it is our responsibility because we have given him that kind of access. That's why we have to always provide a least privilege of access. Okay, so it will be our responsibility. So we have to make sure the people who are working on a product, we have to make sure we have to give them a least privilege access so that they cannot touch the other components of your application infrastructure. And finally, the customer data. The customer data, the data which was which was generated by your application as a customer data. So you are going to store that data. So that is your responsibility. How you are securing that data. How you are securing that data. Okay. So this customer data, I would say, let me give an example. Last year there was a news that Zoom data got breached. Customer data from Zoom platform got breached. So there was some security breach was there. That's why the data got breached. If there would be a high security, they have followed a correct security method, then the data wouldn't have breached. Okay, so that is a customer data. Now somebody is asking, sir, network traffic encryption can done by AWS. How we can configure? Okay, so the network traffic. Okay, when it comes to AWS, they are taking care of the network traffic. The networking between like that between that is connecting all the regions and your availability zones. So like since they have created this Raghavan, they have created a region. Inside that multiple availability zones are there. So all regions are interconnected. All the availability zones are interconnected. So that is one AWS backbone network. So if anything happens in that AWS backbone network, then they are responsible. But when you are creating a VPC, you are defining your own VPC for your application. So regarding that, the network traffic which will be flowed inside your application, flowed towards your application from like inside that particular VPC, for that you will be responsible. They will be responsible for AWS backbone network. The connection between the availability zone. If suppose there's any data breach happened between the availability zone, then you can question AWS. That kind of a network traffic they are taking care. what we are taking care as a part of network traffic, the traffic which we are creating for our application, that will be owned by us. Okay. So somebody asking, sir, admin access, like if we download one application, will be stored in my server, which I am using on my local hard disk. Yeah. You can say, suppose, if you have an admin, like, money, you are the admin of your laptop. So in your laptop, you can download anything. Suppose if you want to download, this go to meeting, like meeting software, you can download. Suppose, you are in your college and you are trying to download there, then you will get one permission denied error because you are not the admin of that particular machine. Yeah, the same way. Okay. Okay, I've answered. So I hope it is clear what is the responsibility of AWS, what is the responsibility of customer inside AWS shared responsibility model, and the main focus is on the security, the application security, the cloud security. So to get a higher cloud security, they have distributed the responsibilities between AWS and the customer guys. Okay, so I hope it is clear. Let's move ahead. Okay, so the AWS responsibilities, the security of the cloud. So let's check out the AWS responsibility, the same thing. So, AWS responsibilities are the physical security of the data center. Definitely, the data centers are the part of AWS only. Okay, the part of the, part of our, AWS only. So, like AWS infrastructure. That's why the physical security of data center will be AWS responsibility. So then hardware and software infrastructure. So all the hardware which is a part of your AWS, data centers will be AWS responsibility. All the softwares like OS installed on those hardware, the virtualization layer will be the part of AWS responsibility. We have already discussed that. I'm just revising those. And then the network infra. The network infra means the network, the AWS private network, that is the AWS backbone network, which is connecting multiple regions, which is connecting all the, like edge locations to the availability zone. All those, the network which belongs to AWS. So if anything happens inside a AWS network, that is the network is like, intrusion happens, then it is responsibility of AWS to, to secure that network and to provide the justification if something goes wrong, because it is their responsibility. Then virtualization infrastructure, to create a virtualization layer, to create the to create the software on the top of the virtualization layer will be their responsibility, and using those software in the form of services, we are going to create the application infrastructure. So it's like if you will check out the diagram, this compute, the storage, database, networking are the kind of a virtual software which are provided to us to create the infra. And this is the region, availability zone, edge location, the hardware part, everything is responsibility of AWS to secure them. Okay, now let's check out the AWS customer responsibility. What is our responsibility to secure the cloud? So customer responsibility, like EC2 instance operating system, including patching and maintenance. Suppose we are using a EC2 instance, or EC2 server or EC2 machine, all the same thing. Whether we are using this EC2 instance to to deploy our application, so to patch this particular operating system, to maintain this particular EC2 machine is our responsibility. Now the applications like password, role-based access, suppose like you have given access to particular users to access your AWS infra, then you have to create the password policies so that they can create a strong password. You have to provide a separate access to different teams so that they cannot access all the applications. So you have to give the access on the base of roles, like that. And then security group configuration, the firewalls, which port you have to open, since you have defined the network for your application. So it is your responsibility that which port you are going to open for network transfer into your towards your application or outside your application. It is your, since you are configuring, so it is your responsibility. And then OS or host-based firewalls, including intrusion detection or prevention system. So some firewalls are there, okay, and which is like host-based or like server-based. So for that also, which port you are going to open, what kind of a communication will happen in the part of network, that will be your responsibility. Since we are creating the network, once you will create a VPC. VPC is a networking part. Once you will reach out to the VPC section, then I will tell you how to create the network for your application. So inside that VPC only you are going to launch your application. That will be the network which is created by you guys. Okay, so that's why it is your responsibility. Okay, what is firewall? Okay, so firewalls, like are the security component of your network. which which protect your application from unwanted traffic. Okay, Chinna. It is a security part of your network. Firewalls are the security part of network, which is used to secure your application from unwanted traffic. Now, Mani is asking me one more question. Which one is this? Okay, yeah, that application is stored in my local system, hard disk, or server storage. Right. No. Okay, so if suppose you are Mani, if you are like if you are installing any application in your local machine, then it will be installed in your local machine. If suppose you have created one AWS server and you have installed one application on the AWS server, so it will be stored inside the storage of AWS. Simple. Okay. Okay. So then the network configuration, the account management, or the network configuration, since you're creating a VPC, you're defining everything. That is a network configuration. So you'll be responsible for that. And finally, account management. All the people you're going to access your AWS account, you're going to provide them the permissions, the login credentials. So all those things is your responsibility. What kind of a permission you're giving to each user, that is your responsibility, so that nobody can, like access the unwanted resources which they don't have to use it as per their job profile. If suppose I am a network engineer, I should only be accessing the network components like CloudFront, Route 53, VPC, etc. etc. I should not have access to storage part, that is S3 bucket, EFS, etc. because that's not my job role. So based on the job role, we are going to provide the access to the users. The same thing is mentioned here, the customer data, application, IAM, OS, the same thing, which were the part here, which were defined here. I have already explained you guys. Okay. So now let's check out the service characteristics and security responsibility. Okay. So the three models are there. So based on three models, they have given you some example to identify which services are the part of infra as a service, which services are part of platform as a service. So we all know the concept about infra as a service. The customer has more flexibility over configuring networking and storage. Definitely, since you are using these services to create the infra from the base. So you are configuring everything. When you're configuring from the base, that means you are having more control on the infra. Customer is responsible for managing more aspect of the security. Customer configures the access control. Definitely, when I am doing all the configuration, then I will be responsible for the security. Definitely. So what are the what are the examples? Some of the examples, let's check out. EC2 machines comes under IAS. Like these are the example of AWS inside AWS. Amazon Elastic, block storage is also the part of IaaS example, and Amazon VPC, because you're going to use these services, you're going to configure all these services from zero to top level. That's why these are the part of infra as a service. Okay, and let's check out the platform as a service. So where there are some customers or developers who don't have to take the overhead to manage the infra, because they suppose either they have a very little knowledge or they don't have a particular kind of a team that can create the infra for them. So for those people, they can directly bring the application and deploy on a particular platform, and that platform is known as, and that platform is your AWS platform services, which is a part of your platform as a service. So AWS handles the operating system, database patching, firewall configuration, disaster recovery. So this will be the kind of a managed services. So AWS is going to handle everything. They're going to handle the patching of operating system, the firewall, the configuration of the firewall, which port is going to open, that they're going to happen, they are going to take care, and then disaster recovery. Some disaster is going to happen, then they would have already created, created this application infra highly available. So if any disaster is going to happen, they're going to recover from the disaster. So it is all AWS responsibility. That's why it is a managed service. This platform as service are the managed service. The customers can focus on managing core data. Definitely, when like we have learned in when we have checked out the difference between IaaS, PaaS, and SaaS, I've told you inside PaaS, what is what the end customer has to manage their application code only. Apart from that, all the infra will be created automatically by AWS, and they are going to manage the infra. Let's check out some example. Lambda. Lambda you can consider as a serverless component, but yeah, you can consider it as a platform as a service also. But the main thing is there, Lambda is a function as a service. That is another component, function as a service, fast. So where you are creating the Lambda functions to create your serverless architecture. So it is not exactly platform as a service, it is a part of function as a service. You have RDS. RDS, Amazon RDS is a relational database service, which is a managed service. So here also, you will just configure and you will get one database server. And finally, AWS Elastic Beanstalk is the best example. So once we will do the practical of Elastic Beanstalk, then will be clear that you don't have to create anything. You have to just deploy your application. The resources will be created automatically. Okay, so this is past examples. Okay, now what is SaaS examples? Software as a service. Software is centrally hosted, licensed on the subscription model or pay-as-you-go basis. So these are the ready-made softwares which you're going to be used as a service. So examples are Trusted Advisor. It is a ready-made software where you can check, where you can connect with your like AWS engineers using this service, and they will help you to create a like robust, secure, and highly available infra. They want to scan your infra. They want to provide you the recommendations. AWS Shield, it is also a managed service. So AWS Shield is used to tackle the DDoS attacks. So DDoS is your distributed denial of service attack. So this is one of the very common attack. The hackers is going to do this attack to your application, where they're going to inject the fake traffic on your application. That is the distributed denial of service attack. So what hackers is going to do? Suppose you have a e-commerce application which is running on two servers. So whenever any DDoS attack will happen, so initially suppose like each day like you are monitoring your servers, everything is done. So each day you are getting roughly around 50% of customer traffic. The resources are exhausted to 50% only. The traffic which you are getting on both servers, it is only like exhausting your resources up to 50%. Like CPU utilization will be 50%, memory utilization will be up to 50%. But now one fine day you found that initially there is a gradual growth, rapid growth. I would say rapid growth in your like consumption of your AWS like server resources, and your suppose from 50% the CPU is moved to 98%. Your memory suddenly getting filled very very quickly. So in that case you will check out. So if you will see the false requests are there, that some like some requests are coming which are false, which are empty. Those are the DDoS attack. So what these hackers going to do? They're going to inject the fake traffic. So now the fake traffic will be injected, and that fake traffic is going to reach your application server, which is going to maximize your server resources like your CPU, memory, and because of that your server will be exhausted and your application will be impacted. Apart from that, that is the one impact which is that your application resources are getting exhausted. Apart from that, the real customer traffic. Suppose I am the real customer who's trying to access the e-commerce application, trying to check out the like sneakers. The traffic will be halted. Now the customer will start facing application downtime, or very very like a lot of delay in the response from the application. There will be a huge latency. So it is degrading your application performance. So automatically to tackle that DDoS attack, we have AWS Shield, which is a service which you can use, and it is going to provide you a shield. So once any DDoS attack will come, it's going to automatically eliminate or tackle that DDoS attack. So this is the usage of AWS Shield. Now Amazon Chime. Amazon Chime is a messaging app. So suppose we have a WhatsApp. So like like we have your what is it? What's the example? Yeah, Microsoft Teams are there. Microsoft Teams is a like a messaging app, where suppose you are working in the same company, you can suppose you guys are inside the same college, so each one will have a college account of like of your with your college email IDs on Microsoft Teams, and you guys can communicate with each other on that particular Microsoft Teams platform. Same way, Amazon Chime is there. So Amazon Chime is a messaging app inside your like a messaging or a communication app inside your AWS platform. So you can use this like as a software, and based on the usage you will be charged. You can just like if suppose you are having a team of 100 people, you don't want to buy any other Microsoft or some other Skype app and all the subscription, you can use this Amazon Chime, and from there all the people inside your company can communicate with each other. You can also schedule meetings using Amazon Chime as well. Yeah, Link is there, Slack is there, Skype is there. Okay, Microsoft Teams is there. These are the other examples. So in the same way, The same functionality of Amazon Chime. Okay, so it is a ready-made software. So services are typically accessed via web browser, mobile app. So definitely, like these services are, these services are, what do you say, you can access these services using your mobile app or your web server, and customer do not need to manage the infrastructure. Definitely, since it is a ready-made software, you don't have to manage anything. You can just use the software. That's it. That is the fund of software as a service. So Gmail is not an example. It is not a correct example. It is a mailing service. It is not a messaging part. You like if I will say Hangout, from Hangout you can do that stuff. The video meeting. Yeah, they can explore, they, if suppose you will ask them that to chat with Infect Chime, they can use internally. And one more thing, if suppose if they are not using the chime, then they're going to like they will call you directly also. They will ask you what's your free time and they will call you. Apart from that, they will also communicate you through the email. Maximum time they communicate through emails, okay, because they will have a record over there. Okay, Mani. Okay, guys, so this is about software as a service. And now let's check out some activity of AWS shared responsibility model. There will be few questions based on a simple infra. We're going to decide whether the particular portion is the responsibility of customer or AWS. So let's check out. So the answers are already there. So just I'm going to tell you each and everything. The first one is, first let's understand this infra. This is a very simple infra. So inside AWS cloud, your application is hosted on Amazon EC2, which is inside your virtual private cloud, and your database, you are using Oracle database, and storage you are using Amazon S3 to store your application files. This is your whole infra. Now there are few questions based on this infra. First one is upgrade and patch to the operating system on the EC2 instance. Suppose you are using a EC2 instance to host your application. So suppose if you want, when it comes to upgrade, when it comes to software upgrade or patching the OS of this EC2 machine, then it is whose responsibility? So till now we know EC2 is infra as a service. So since we are configuring everything from base to the higher level, then it is our responsibility. That's why the correct answer is the customer responsibility. Now the physical security of the data center. So the data center are built by Amazon. Who is going to take care the responsibility of physical security of data center? It is AWS. So the correct answer is AWS. Now the virtualization infrastructure. So how to create who will control the virtualization layer? So all these services are virtual services, but who is going to use that virtualization who is going to create that virtualization infrastructure? That is created by AWS only. Because inside AWS and data center, they are using this virtualization technology to create the virtual services which we are using to create the virtual application infrastructure. So it is the responsibility of AWS. Now EC2 security group settings, security groups or firewall settings. When it comes to EC2, since we have configured EC2, we are configuring the security group or firewalls of EC2, then it is our responsibility. That's why to configure the security group settings of EC2, it is customer's responsibility. Now the fifth one is, so it's not charging. Okay. Okay, now the fifth one is, okay, now the configuring of application, it runs on EC2 instance. So you are hosting the applications on EC2 instance. You are configuring the application on EC2 instance, and it is whose responsibility to secure the application? It is customer responsibility. Sixth one is Oracle upgrade or patching if the Oracle instance runs on an Amazon RDS instance. So RDS is a platform as a service. It is a managed service. So all the upgradation of that Oracle database, which is created using RDS service, Amazon RDS, which is a managed service, example of platform as a service. So to upgrade or to patch that particular Oracle database which was created using Amazon RDS, so it is whose responsibility to patch and upgrade? It is AWS responsibility, because we don't have to manage that particular infra. So all these overhead tasks will be taken care by AWS. Now suppose you are using the same Oracle database and you want to upgrade or patch if the Oracle is running on EC2 instance. Now suppose there are two ways. Either you can use Amazon RD service to create the Oracle database server. That is a managed part. Suppose you want more control, so you have created one EC2 machine, and on the top of that, with the help of different commands, you have installed the Oracle service, and you have created the Oracle database. Since you have installed all the services, you have created the EC2 machine. Now to patch that Oracle database or to upgrade the Oracle database version, it is whose responsibility? It is customer responsibility, because we installed this Oracle database on the top of EC2. Okay. Now finally, S3 bucket access configuration. So S3 bucket are there, okay, which holds your, objects like, like PDF and your, video and audio images and all. So when you are creating S3 bucket from, from the base level, when you are configuring that bucket, when you are creating the bucket, when you are creating the permission for that bucket, and it is whose responsibility to create an access configuration? It is customer responsibility, because customer is going to create S3 buckets from their own. That's why it is customer responsibility to provide access to whom. Suppose they want to give access to me, then they can provide access to me. So it is done by customer end only. Okay, so in this architecture, these were the different questions which will help you to understand that what is the responsibility of AWS and what is the responsibility of customer. Okay, let's check out the scenario 2. The scenario 2, so the scenario 2 will be your, considering this deployment. So suppose let's like you have one application which is installed on your web server. Is AWS available for light sale? If available, that is available, guys. It is available for light sale as well. Guys, excuse me for a for a minute. Let me just attach a power cable to my laptop. So now let's check out this scenario, guys. Okay, so this is the second scenario. So in this scenario, what we are doing, inside a VPC, we have subnets. So we create subnets inside VPC. So once we will go to the VPC section, I'm going to explain that part. So we have a web server, which is created on using your Amazon EC2, and that web server is connecting to your S3 bucket. So suppose let's consider, suppose this is a Instagram application, and so all the customers who are posting their videos and pictures, that's internally getting saved inside the S3 bucket. Okay, so now these are the different options how suppose AWS engineers, the different people working in the team can access your application infra which is created on AWS. So you can access through Amazon Management Console. You can also access through your AWS CLI using the secured keys, SSH keys, secured shell key. There are some keys are there, okay? Private and public keys are there. We're going to check out that part later. So with the help of those keys, you can access your AWS infra securely. And this is the internet gateway from where all the internet traffic is coming to your application. So suppose when I'm trying to access this Instagram app which is hosted on EC2, then my traffic will flow through the internet gateway towards the web server. Okay, so now let's check out few questions regarding this infra. First one is ensuring that the AWS Management Console is not hacked. AWS Management Console is not hacked. So since AWS Management Console is created by AWS, so if that console is not hacked, it is the responsibility of AWS to secure the console. There's a difference. This is a console, and this console is common to everyone, in whether I'm using from my account or your account. Okay, so when this console will get hacked, then this is whose responsibility? It is the responsibility of AWS. Configuring the subnet. So suppose This was the VPC. This is the network which you have created. Inside the VPC, the subnets are created by you only, because when you are creating a network, you have to create all the network components from your own. So it is our responsibility, the customer responsibility to configure the subnets. Configuring the VPC, this VPC is a IaaS service, so you have to configure it from the basic. So it is customer responsibility. Now protecting against network outage in AWS region. So suppose that some outages are there. Outage means some downtime. Suppose some like suppose they are upgrading the network band. Suppose currently the network band was able to have a speed of around 2.5 GB per second. Now they are upgrading the band to 5 GB, 5 GB per second speed. So that is a network outage. So they are going to bring down the network for some time, and so that none of the communication will take care. Suppose that kind of a scenario comes, okay, in any AWS region, so how they can protect the network outage in AWS region? So it is whose responsibility? Says it is a AWS global network to connect the region. So to protect against the network outages in a particular region, it is the responsibility of AWS. Now securing the SSH keys. So these are the SSH keys are there. Secured shell keys are there. Okay. So these are the secure, secure shell keys are there. So these keys contains the two part, the public and the private key. So you are going to create the keys for each server. So for accessing some server in a particular region, you are going to create the key. So when you are creating the key, it is your responsibility to secure the key. That's why it is the customer responsibility. Then I'm going to come to your question. Okay, just give me a second to finish all these things. Okay, so now the sixth is ensuring network isolation between AWS data, customer data. So definitely, all the customer data is like all these customer data are stored inside the data center of AWS on a big storages. So it is AWS responsibility to isolate customer A data from customer B data. Since it is a very, suppose there is a huge storage rack of 100 petabyte. Okay, so inside that 100 customer data is there. So it is AWS responsibility to isolate each data of all the customer. So they have planned some kind of a isolation technology that is going to isolate each customer data on a single storage. So it is whose responsibility to ensure network or storage isolation. Anything of like for this AWS customer data is responsibility of AWS. Now ensuring low latency network connection between the web server and S3 bucket. So look at this. This is a web server and this is a S3 bucket. Now these both are inside the AWS network. Since S3 bucket is not defined outside AWS, it is defined inside AWS only on the AWS platform. This EC2 is defined under VPC. So to ensure that there is a low latency between S3 and EC2 communication, it is the responsibility of AWS because both services are the part of AWS network. It is inside. The communication is happening between EC2, between two services, the EC2 and S3 are inside AWS. That's why it is the responsibility of AWS to provide the low latency network. And forcing multi-factor authentication for all the logins. Now, what is MFA multi-factor authentication, guys? Let me explain you. So this is an added, second level of, authentication. So when I'm telling second level of authentication, so the first level of authentication is your, of authentication or security is your password and your user ID and password. So suppose you create any account. Suppose you created any account on any website which supports multi-factor authentication. So first of all, you're going to create your account using your ID and password. So if suppose you have not enabled MFA, then whenever you're going to provide your credentials, username and password, you'll be able to access the website. Now suppose if you have enabled the MFA, so now that is a second factor of security. So inside the MFA, what is going to happen? Once you will clear the first step of providing the correct username and password, then you will move to the second step of MFA. In the MFA, one auto-generated code will be generated on some device. Suppose you have to connect one hardware token or software token for MFA, where you will get one device for maybe for like a device will you will get one code, guys. that code will be auto refreshed after a minute or 30 seconds. So you have to put that code on the screen, then only you will be able to access the application. That is the second level of security using multi-factor authentication. Okay, so this is the multi-factor authentication where you are providing a second level of security. And how you're providing, you know, this multi-factor authentication, you know, is a token based, token based authentication, where you have to configure a hardware or software token. Like there's a Google authentication, application is there which you can use it, and there are few hardware tokens are there which you can buy from the market and you can configure. So that token will display a code. That code you have to provide on the real time, then only you will be able to access. So suppose, if you enable the MFA, then to, if there's any user, like, this like, Durga and Mani are working in the same company, and Mani has enabled MFA on his AWS account, and Durga knows Mani's credential. So Durga has provided username and ID password of Mani, and now the first label is cleared. Now the second level MFA, Durga don't know what is the code, because that code is only with Mani. Mani only know that code inside that hardware token or software token. So Durga would be able to log into Mani's AWS account, because it has, because because they have, enabled the MFA. Yeah, you can consider it is a second factor authentication. Gmail also, Shrikant, they have also given. Yes. So they are going to send a code on your mobile number, but here you have to configure a token. That is only difference. But the functionality say it is a second factor authentication. Yes, they are using in payment gateway. Very good, guys. That's correct. Okay, so now somebody is asking me a few questions. Okay, I have to explain the 7 point again. So look at this. Who has asked that question? Okay, Salate. Okay, Salate, look at this. So inside this, the VPC subnet EC2 is S3 bucket, all are created inside the AWS platform. So the communication between these services are internal. So to make sure that EC2 service is having a low latency communication with S3, so it is whose responsibility? Since everything is inside the AWS network, nothing is on the public network, everything is under your AWS backbone network, then it is whose responsibility? It is the responsibility of AWS, because the communication between embedded EC2 and S3 bucket is inside the AWS network only. That's why it is the responsibility of S3 only. Okay. Sorry, it is responsibility of AWS. So I hope it is clear now. Salate? Yeah, okay. So now, like nickname and other credentials, sir. What nickname? As credentials. Yeah, credentials means your ID and password. Credentials means, suppose you have created a Facebook account. So like Facebook account means you need one user ID and you need one password. So you can put your user ID and you can put your password, like you use for Gmail also. So that is the meaning of credentials. Okay, Mani. Okay, I got a question from Nitin. Let me check out that question. How AWS Management Console will be AWS responsibility is used by customer, right? Okay, one thing, Nitin. AWS Management Console is a console which is available to you also, which is available to Durga, me, Rishikesh, everyone who is having the account. If this console is hacked, okay, if this service, this is also one service. AWS Management Console is also one service. If this service is hacked, then who is responsible? Has customer created the service? Has you created the service? Whether I have created the service? No. So that's why it is the responsibility of AWS. If your account is getting hacked, then it is your responsibility. Since this is a service, AWS Management Console is also a service which is hosting multiple services. That's why. Okay, Nitin. Okay, what is secure shell keys? So SSH is a secure shell keys. So these keys are there, Chinna. Like it is a combination of two keys, a private key and a public key. So using this combination of private and public key, you will be able to log into a particular server securely. Suppose you want to, like, suppose you are working as a cloud operation engineer, Chinna, and So tomorrow, suppose some issue comes and you want to you want to check out, you want to troubleshoot that issue, and for that you want to log into your EC2 machine where your application is hosted. So for that, these keys are required. So the public key will be there. Using this secure shell key, you have to provide a private key, and that public key will be there inside your server only. So once the combination of those secure shell keys will be matched, the public key will get a corresponding correct private key. Then only you will be able to securely access your EC2 machine. I hope it is clear now. Okay, so Mani is asking that kindly can I know what are the possible reasons that get my server down? Anything. Server down, I'll just stop the server. I just stop the server. Some outage is there. I'll terminate the server. These are the possible reasons. If suppose I can only stop the server, or AWS can do some outage, or there is some hardware failure, or somebody has terminated the server, somebody has hacked your server and then terminated. These are different kind of possibilities to get your server down money. Okay. Okay, guys. So I think I have answered all the queries. Nothing is pending. Let's go to the topics now. Okay. Let's take the key takeaways of the section. So AWS and customer share responsibility. Now we know AWS is responsible for security of the cloud and customer responsibility for security inside the cloud, because we are using this particular platform to host our application. So we have few responsibilities, and there are few responsibilities of AWS, and both responsible. If both are responsible, then we are going to create a secure applications on AWS, a secure application infrastructure. AWS is responsible for protecting the infra, including hardware, software, networking, and facilities that runs AWS cloud. This networking is AWS internal networking. Don't get confused, okay? So I told you, these services are connecting now. This EC2 is connecting to S3 how? Internal AWS network. So if anything goes wrong inside the internal networking, if any security failure happens inside internal AWS networking, then AWS is responsible. And whatever network we are creating, so that our customer can access our application, anything get breached there, that is our responsibility. Okay, so for services that are categorized as inside the service, the customer is responsible for performing the necessary security configuration and management risk. For example, guest who has updated security patches, firewall. Yeah, I've told you. Suppose when you are creating a EC2 machine, you're creating a network, you're creating a firewall. Then when you are doing a whole configuration for your application, infrastructure, then it is your responsibility to handle the security of that particular part. Okay, so this was about section 1. Okay, so we still have 6 minutes. Okay, let me just tell you a few details about AWS identity and access management service, and we're going to wrap up today's session. Okay, so let's start with section 2, right? That is your AWS identity and access management service. So identity and access management is a central service which is used to control AWS resources inside your AWS account. Okay, so now you understood. It is a central platform where you can centrally control your AWS resources belonging to your AWS account. What are the resources? Resources are the different kind of different kind of services. Apart from that, what also we can consider as a resources, a person, a user who is trying to access your application infra using that AWS account. Okay, so it is a central platform to manage your AWS resources inside the AWS account. So how we are managing the resources? By creating the permission. The same thing, we are creating the policies. Those policies are known as IAM policies. So inside AWS organization, what policies we create, guys? Answer me. When we are using AWS organization, what policies we create? What? Yeah, very good, Srikanth. What about others? I've got an answer from Srikanth, and it is correct. Like in IAM, we are creating IAM policies. So when we are using AWS organization, that what policies we create to manage the account? The correct answer is service control policies. So with the help of those policies only, we are able to control our AWS resources. So let's check out this slide. So use IAM to manage access to AWS resources. A resource is an entity in an AWS account that you can work with. Example of resources, an EC2 instance or a S3 bucket. These are the resources. These are the different AWS resources. EC2 instance is one resource. S3 bucket is one resource. So like how to control these resources. The control is done with the help of identity and access management. Example, control who can terminate EC2 instance. So for example, like we take an example here. So like Durga and Raghavendra are working in my team, and both are server administrator. Raghavendra is senior, so I have given him an access that he can terminate the EC2 instances, and I have provided and I have created one policy where Durga can only list, like he can only see all the instances running on a particular AWS region in a particular AWS account. But Durga cannot terminate those instances. Only Raghavendra can terminate that instances. So suppose Durga is trying to terminate the instance, he won't be able to do because he will get one permission denied error. And when Raghavendra is trying to terminate that Amazon EC2 instance, then since he is having that kind of a like permissions for his user account, he will be able to terminate the EC2 instances. So it defines fine-grained access rights. Definitely, you can also like with the help of IAM policy, like IAM, service, you can define fine-grained access rights. What are the fine-grained access rights? The same example for Raghavendra, I have given a fine-grained access right to terminate the instances. For Durga, there was no right to terminate the instances. He can only see the instances, the list of the instances. So this is the meaning of fine-grained access. For each individual, I can create different set of policies. I can give them a fine-grained access. So which means who can access the resources. So if I have given the permission to Durga and Raghavendra to access EC2 service, then only they can access EC2 service, EC2 AWS resource. Which resource can be accessed and what can the user do to that resource? So since I have given them the permission to access EC2, that's why they can access the EC2 service. Now till what level they can use? What they can do? Raghavendra can terminate the instance, but Durga cannot terminate the instance. That is the meaning of what can the user do to the resources. Okay, the third one, how resources can be accessed. So whether resources can be accessed from management console or they can be accessed from CLI. That also you can also define it using a IAM service. IAM is a no-cost AWS account feature. So when you are creating the users, you creating the policies, you won't be charged any, like not a single penny of using this IAM service. So I'm going to stop the session here. So any questions regarding today's session, you can ask me, and I'm going to provide you one, what do you say, the form. Please fill out this form to provide the feedback of this training, guys. This is a regular activity to provide the feedback, and I'm going to wait for another minute. So already I've answered all the query. If any other queries there, I'm going to answer that also. Then we're going to wrap up today's class, guys. Any other question, guys? I hope you guys are filling the feedback form also parallelly. Okay, sure. Well, I am going very slowly, Mani. I am explaining the things in multiple examples, multiple ways. But okay, I'll try to, lower down the pace. Okay, sure. Yes, we assign policy. We create policy and we assign the policy. Yes, Chinna, correct. Inside availability zone, we have command storage, and edge location we have in cache storage. Yes. My name is Bhaskar. Bhaskar Rajput. Okay, guys. Access Ganjana. Okay. Yeah. You can also access the policy. Whatever policies you have created, you can also access that. You can create your custom policies also. Okay. Yeah, thank you. Okay, guys. So I'll meet you tomorrow. Thank you so much for joining the session. And please revise the concept, and I'll see you tomorrow. Thank you so much. Have a good night. Bye bye.